to Lumberjack Impact. I'm your host, Blake Newbauer. Lumberjack Impact is the show where we highlight the amazing faculty here and explore all things that make SFA great. My guest today is an associate professor of psychology at Stephen F. Austin State University. She is also a founding member of the Organization for Women's Leadership and Excellence, or OWL. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Dr. Lauren Brewer. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So speaking of OWL, if you could give us a brief summary, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so OWL was an organization that we created before the pandemic to support women on campus. And we had some really fruitful conversations when we first started talking about getting together and doing this organizing work. That there were lots of things going on campus, as there are in any community. And we wanted to make sure that we had a voice, a seat at the table, if you will. And so several of us got together and talked about, well, what would this look like? And kind of work would we want to do? And so we talked about our mission and our goals and our objectives and who would be involved. And one of the things that I think makes OWL, the Organization for Women's Leadership and Excellence, such an incredible and powerful organization on campus is that we are one of the very few organizations that involves both faculty and staff. And in the past, we've also had graduate employees. So to be eligible to be a member of OWL, you just have to be employed by SFA and support our mission. So although we're focused on supporting women, we have many male-identifying members. And so it's a really broad organization. And in the last couple of years, our focus has really been on supporting parents. And that started with supporting parent employees by making sure that we had changing tables. I was really surprised. My daughter is now 7.5. But when she was 6 months old, I realized that there were no accessible changing tables in places like the Student Center or the Rec Center. And these are places that we invite the community to come. And the community often has children. And so we need places for things like breastfeeding and changing diapers. And so we started by advocating for some of those things. There are now high chairs in the Student Center. So if someone from the community was to come and patronize some of the wonderful establishments we have in the Student Center, but has a small child, there are now high chairs available for them. So we've really tried to think about what is it that parents might need on campus. And perhaps our crowning achievement over the last maybe 3 or 4 years has been the creation of this parenting website. And so on that website, parents can find all sorts of information about policies, but also things like summer camp and music lessons, swimming lessons, all sorts of things that community members might want to use services on campus. There's also links out to local schools so that new employees or new people to the area would be able to find some of those resources. And so it's one of the things that I'm most proud of is the fact that we worked to create this resource. The other thing that makes it really cool is that the resource is broadly accessible to everyone. So we know that it's not just employees who have children, but also students. And so we realized that if a student finds themselves pregnant or their partner finds them pregnant, that there's not an obvious path for those students. And so we realized that it would be nice in the privacy of one's own space to be able to say, oh man, I just found out I'm pregnant. How is this going to affect my graduation? How is this going to affect my chemistry lab? How is this going to affect my ability to finish my studies? And so when you go to this parenting website, you can sort of branch out to see, okay, well, here are some resources for employees, but here are some resources for students. And for example, I didn't know, even as both a mom and as an employee, that if a student is pregnant and has doctor's appointments they need to go to, they need to work with disability services that I'm not sure who I would have thought they would work with. So it was in the process of building this website that we talked with so many offices on campus, obviously our Title IX office, but our disability services office. If someone finds themselves pregnant, again, an employee or a student, they can request pregnant student parking. Well, we have to work with parking services on that. Again, I don't know where I thought that might come from, but it is parking services. And so the website compiles all of those sort of nuggets of information. And so it's a really great resource again, both for students and for employees.
So you talk about the creation process of the website. What was that process like, and how would you say that your background in psychology helped you with making it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I first have to give credit where credit is due. My colleague Heather Olson-Beal, Dr. Olson-Beal, who's over in secondary education and education studies, really took charge and took the lead on this website. And she is just a wealth of information. Anyone who knows Dr. Olson-Beal knows that she knows this community, she knows this campus. And so she really brought the stakeholders together. And I think as a psychologist, I can recognize that pregnancy and becoming a parent is a major life change, especially that first child. That life changes almost overnight and your priorities change. But it's also really scary, not just from a health perspective, but from a financial perspective, and because of the future, right? We want to provide good futures for our children, but we're not even sure if our future is going to be good. And so we're really working to create that kind of environment where people can get resources, again, privately in their own time, to start making a plan, right? Because once we feel confident that we can do this, then that relieves some of the anxiety. And now we can start getting excited about this new life that we're bringing into the world, and not just feel worried about how am I going to finish my classes, or what am I going to do if I need an ultrasound? How am I going to miss class? And what kind of excuse note do I need? So
Most definitely. You've served as a mentor within the OWL program. What would you say the most rewarding aspect is in that mentorship program for you, but for also the people that you're mentoring?
one of the things that I love about being a professor is that I get to meet students from all across campus. But one of the things that I love less is that in my day-to-day job, I tend to see the people in my department, the faculty and the staff in my department. And what is so great about OWL is that I have met faculty and staff from across campus. And so I get to meet these brilliant people who are doing cool and amazing things in their discipline. And so one of the things that's so great about the mentoring program is that I get to work with new faculty from disciplines that are not anywhere associated with mine. And I get to see these newer faculty really become confident in their teaching profession and really go on to do amazing things. So I've mentored several junior faculty who have, some who are still at SFA and some who have gone on to other places, but all who are really thriving. And so in the same way that I love mentoring students, it feels really cool to also mentor other employees.
What would you say the most challenging aspect is when mentoring students and students that are within the program?
Everyone is so deserving. They're deserving of time, they're deserving of resources, they're deserving of support. And there's only so many hours in the day. I think you probably can appreciate that too. That I want to be able to go to their classes, review their materials, give positive feedback and the kind of feedback that can foster growth. And again, both with my students and with the faculty that I mentor, there's just never enough time to give people the time that they deserve, because they deserve so much.
So the OWL program started back in 2019, as you mentioned, right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
How have you seen it evolve over time in the 6 years that it's been?
Yeah. I would certainly say that our focus has changed. I shouldn't say has changed. We started as a women's organization, trying to support women faculty. But many of the women who are involved in this organization are parents. And certainly the pandemic was a time when kids came home. And so employees, faculty were doing their jobs from a distance and also trying to teach their kids and parent. And so those roles really got blended together. It's sort of the home life and the work life. And so we realized that where people needed the most support was not in their jobs. SFA does a really good job supporting us. But what we needed was support from one another and support in our roles as parents. And so our focus has shifted in the last maybe 3 or so years. And that also coincides with some changes in the Texas state educational code that allows for pregnant and parenting students to do things like have early registration, early access to classes in those other populations, along with those other populations like our athletes and our first generation Gen Jack students. So it's really, there's a synergy with the change in the state code. We now have Dr. Veronica Beavers, who is our parent liaison, and that's a requirement by the state. It's also a requirement by the state that we have resources available. Well, good news for us, our parenting website was able to fill that gap before it was even required by the state. But Dr. Beavers is the SFA official who students can go to when they find out that they're pregnant, or when they transfer in or come to SFA as a parenting student. And she can help them navigate. She can be the go-between between, say, them and their professor, or if there's an issue with housing, she can help navigate a lot of those things. And so part of what OWL does is play support to her role. So we're able to talk about curricular issues, or how else can we do the kind of support that Dr. Beavers in her role as parenting liaison maybe can't do from the staff side. We also serve as advocates. So when students find out that they're pregnant, if they just need some support, OWL members can function in that way.
So much great information and so many great resources. For the people watching at home, where can they find out more information?
Yeah, so our parenting website is available at sfasu.edu/parenting. And if anyone has any questions about OWL, we would love to connect via email. Our email address is owle@sfasu.edu.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much as the viewer for watching Lumberjack Impact. Stay tuned for more episodes in the future. And for more content, go to youtube.com/JackTV SFA. For myself here at the desk, everyone in the studio, thank you so much again for tuning in. Have a great day, and Axe some Jacks.
This program is brought to you by the Department of Media and Communication at Stephen F. Austin State University.